Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palms against the reinforced glass, watching the massive creature pace within the containment chamber. The Drakmor stood 12 feet tall, its obsidian scales catching the harsh fluorescent lights of the underground research facility. Steam rose from its nostrils with each breath, and its amber eyes held an intelligence that made her stomach twist with guilt. "The tribunal has reached their decision," Director Hawthorne announced, his voice echoing through the observation deck. "Dr. Vasquez, for your unauthorized communication attempts with Subject 47 in violation of Protocol 7, you are hereby sentenced to indefinite containment with the specimen." Elena's colleagues stood in stunned silence. Dr. Marcus Chun, her research partner, stepped forward. "This is barbaric." Elena was making breakthrough progress in interspecies communication. "The creature hasn't shown aggression in months." "The creature killed 3 security personnel during the initial capture," Hawthorne replied coldly. "Doctor, Vasquez's emotional attachment has compromised her judgment. Perhaps direct exposure will remind her that this thing is a weapon, not a pet." The Drakmor had stopped pacing, its massive head turned toward the observation window, those intelligent eyes seeming to focus directly on Elena. She had spent 6 months studying its behavior patterns, learning its complex body language, even developing a rudimentary sign system. Unlike her colleagues, she had seen beyond the fearsome exterior to the profound loneliness within. "You can't do this," protested Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the facility's xenobiologist. "Elena has 3 children at home. Her research has been invaluable." "The decision is final." Hawthorne nodded to the security team. "Escort Dr. Vasquez to decontamination. She enters the chamber in 1 hour." As the guards flanked her, Elena looked back at the Drakmor. The creature had pressed its own massive claws against the glass, mirroring her gesture. In that moment, she realized the truth that had been staring at them all along. This being wasn't just intelligent, it was empathetic. It understood her fear. The decontamination process felt like preparation for execution. Elena changed into the standard containment suit, knowing it would provide little protection if the Drakmor decided to attack. But as she looked at her reflection in the polished metal wall, she felt an unexpected calm. 6 months of observation had taught her that the creature's aggression had always been defensive, triggered by pain or fear. The chamber door sealed behind her with a pneumatic hiss. Elena stood alone with the monster that had supposedly killed. 3 men, in a room designed to contain the most dangerous specimen the facility had ever captured. The Drakmor watched her from across the space, perfectly still, waiting. She took her first step forward. The Drakmor remained motionless as Elena approached, its amber eyes tracking her every movement. The chamber felt enormous around them, a sterile white cube 30 feet on each side, equipped with basic amenities that seemed absurdly inadequate for the situation. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs, but she forced herself to move slowly, deliberately. "Hello, Quran," she whispered, using the name she had given the creature during her research. It was derived from the low, rumbling sound it made when content the sound the other researchers had dismissed as mere animal noise. The Drakmor's head tilted slightly. Elena interpreted this as recognition, perhaps even relief. She had been the only human to consistently treat it as more than a specimen. While others had poked, prodded, and tested, she had observed, learned, and attempted to communicate. She stopped 6 feet away close enough to show trust, far enough to retreat if necessary. The creature's massive frame could crush her in seconds. But Elena had noticed something during her months of observation. Quran had never once attempted to harm her through the glass, even when other researchers triggered its defensive responses. "They think I'm being punished," Elena said softly, settling cross-legged on the floor. "But I think they've given us an opportunity." Quran lowered itself into a crouch, mimicking her posture. The gesture was unmistakably intentional. Elena felt tears sting her eyes. This beautiful, intelligent being had been caged and studied like a laboratory rat, with no consideration for its emotional state or cognitive needs. She began the communication routine she had developed. Using her hands, she formed the simple symbols they had practiced through the glass barrier. Friend, safe, together. Quran responded with its own gestures, massive claws moving with surprising delicacy. The signs were crude but clear. Afraid. Alone. Pain. I know, Elena whispered. I know you're hurting. Hours passed as they sat together, gradually moving closer. Elena shared water from her container, and Quran accepted it gratefully. When exhaustion finally overtook her, she found herself leaning against the warmed scales of the creature's arm. Quran remained perfectly still, understanding her vulnerability. Through the observation window, Dr. Chon watched in amazement. The scene before him challenged everything they thought they knew about the species. Where they had expected violence, they witnessed gentleness. Where they had assumed primitive instinct, they observed sophisticated emotional intelligence. This changes everything, Chun muttered, making notes. Elena was right. This isn't a monster. It's a person. Director Hawthorne stood beside him, his expression unreadable. One night proves nothing. Wait until hunger sets in. Wait until its true nature emerges. But Chun had already seen enough. As Elena slept peacefully against the creature's protective embrace, he began planning his own act of rebellion. Elena woke to the gentle vibration of Quran's purring, a deep, subsonic rumble that seemed to emanate from the creature's chest. She found herself covered by one of Quran's massive arms, shielded from the harsh overhead lights that never dimmed in the containment chamber. "Good morning," she murmured, stretching carefully. Quran lifted its arm, allowing her to sit up, while maintaining protective proximity. The gesture was so naturally considerate that Elena wondered how her colleagues could have missed the creature's inherent gentleness. The observation deck was crowded with researchers. Elena could see Dr. Chun frantically taking notes, Dr. Mitchell arguing with someone off camera, and Director Hawthorne's stern face pressed close to the glass. They were witnessing something unprecedented, and Elena could practically feel their paradigms shifting. She began her morning routine, sharing her meager food ration with Quran. A creature accepted each offering with careful gratitude, its movements deliberately slow to avoid frightening her. Elena had brought her research tablets into the chamber, and she now began documenting their interactions from the inside. "Show me your world," she said to Quran, using their established sign language. What followed was the most extraordinary communication session of Elena's career. Quran began creating complex patterns on the chamber floor using its claws, not scratches, but deliberate marks that formed intricate geometric designs. Elena realized she was seeing star charts, mathematical concepts, even what appeared to be artistic expressions. Quran's species, she discovered, were explorers. Their ship had crashed in Earth's ocean 3 years ago. Quran was not a monster or a weapon. It was a scientist, much like herself. The attacks on the security personnel had been desperate attempts to escape and return to its damaged vessel, where other crew members might still be alive. "My God," Elena breathed, understanding flooding through her. "You're trying to get home." Quran's amber eyes reflected profound sadness. Using their shared symbols, it explained that it had given up hope of rescue. Its people would assume the ship lost, and Quran would die alone on an alien world, never seeing its own kind again. Elena felt rage building in her chest. Not at Quran, but at the system that had caged this remarkable being without ever attempting to understand its needs or motivations. She turned toward the observation window and began signing rapidly, knowing Dr. Chun would understand. Not monster, person, scientist, lost. Needs help. Dr. Chan's face went pale. He immediately began translating for the other observers, his voice rising with excitement and indignation. Dr. Mitchell covered her mouth in horror, finally grasping the magnitude of their mistake. Director Hawthorne's expression remained unchanged. "Fascinating performance," he said coldly, "but irrelevant. A creature is valuable research material, regardless of its intelligence level." Elena could read lips well enough to understand his dismissal. She turned back to Karan, whose keen senses had likely detected the hostility from beyond the glass. "They're not all like him," Elena promised. "Some of us will fight for you." Karan placed one massive claw gently on Elena's shoulder, a gesture of comfort meant for her, not itself. In that moment, Helena realized that she wasn't the one providing solace in this chamber. She was receiving it. By the third day, Elena and Karan had developed a sophisticated communication system that went far beyond their original hand signals. Karan had taught Elena to interpret the subtle color changes in its scales, a complex emotional language that painted its feelings in shifting hues of amber, gold, and deep bronze. Elena documented everything, turning her imprisonment into the most comprehensive xenological study in human history. She learned that Karan's people, the Drakmori, were peaceful explorers who had been traveling the galaxy for millennia, cataloging worlds and studying civilizations. Their mission was to understand, not conquer. "Your ship," Elena signed during their afternoon session. "How many others?" Karan's response made Elena's heart race. 7 others remained on the crashed vessel, trapped in stasis pods designed to preserve life during emergencies. But the pods were failing. Without repair within the next few days, Karan's crewmates would die. Elena immediately began signing toward the observation window, knowing Dr. Chun was watching. She explained the situation with desperate urgency, her hands moving so rapidly that Chun had to ask her to slow down. "There are others," Chun announced to the observation deck. 7 more, dying in a crashed ship. "Elena says Karan can lead us to them." "Impossible," Director Hawthorne declared. "We cannot risk releasing the specimen based on stories it has told to a compromised researcher." Dr. Mitchell stepped forward, her earlier horror having transformed into determination. "Director, we have documented evidence of sophisticated intelligence. Elena's communications with the specimen have been consistent and verifiable. If there's even a chance that 7 beings are dying while we debate, then we maintain our current protocol." Hawthorne interrupted. "The specimen remains contained. Dr. Vasquez is emotional. Manipulation proves my point about the dangers of anthropomorphizing these creatures." Elena pressed her face against the glass, tears streaming down her cheeks. Through their connection, Karan could sense her distress. The massive being approached the barrier and placed its claw against the glass where her palm rested. What happened next would be talked about in scientific circles for decades. Karan began to glow not with external light, but with a bioluminescent display that revealed intricate patterns beneath its scales. The patterns formed a 3-dimensional map of the surrounding ocean floor, pinpointing the exact location of the crashed vessel. The display was so beautiful, so obviously intelligent, and purposeful that even the most skeptical observers fell silent. Karan was literally illuminating the path to save its dying crewmates, offering humanity the coordinates to the greatest xenological discovery in history. "Jesus Christ," whispered Dr. Chun. "It's giving us a star map. Look at the mathematical precision of those coordinates." Dr. Mitchell was already on her phone, calling the Coast Guard. "We need to authorize an immediate deep-sea rescue operation." Director Hawthorne watched the display with calculating eyes. "Very well," he said finally. "But the specimen remains here. We'll send a team to investigate the coordinates. If we find this alleged ship, we can proceed from there. Elena felt Karan's distress through their bond. The creature understood enough human nature to recognize the coldness in Hawthorne's decision. Its crew mates were dying, and still the humans hesitated to trust. That night, as Elena lay against Karan's warm side, she made a decision that would change both their lives forever. If the system wouldn't help Karan save its people, then she would find another way. She began planning their escape. Elena's opportunity came during the shift change at 3 a.m. She had been observing the security protocols for days, noting the brief window in the chamber's monitoring systems were temporarily offline during the routine system backup. Dr. Chun had been secretly helping, his guilt over their treatment of Karan driving him to take unprecedented risks. The maintenance shaft leads directly to the sub-level exit, Chun whispered through the intercom during his authorized communication session. I've disabled the alarms on levels 3 through 5. You'll have maybe 20 minutes before they realize you're gone. Elena looked at Karan, whose scales had shifted to deep amber. The color she had learned meant determination mixed with fear. Are you ready to trust me completely? She signed. Karan's response was to carefully lift Elena onto its shoulders. The massive being had understood the escape plan without needing detailed explanation, grasping the layout of the facility through Elena's descriptions and its own keen observation of the guards' routines. When the moment came, Karan moved with surprising grace for its size. Its claws, which Elena had once feared, now worked with precision to manipulate the maintenance shaft cover. The creature's bioluminescent abilities proved invaluable as they navigated the dark passages, providing soft, directional light that wouldn't trigger motion sensors. They emerged into the coastal night air, and Elena felt the salt breeze on her face for the first time in days. Karan immediately oriented itself toward the ocean, its internal compass guiding them toward its fallen ship. Elena had arranged for diving equipment to be waiting at the dock, another favor from Dr. Chun, who had risked his entire career on faith in her judgment. The descent to the crash site was surreal. Elena, in her diving gear, held on to Karan as the creature moved through the water with natural aquatic grace. At depth, Karan's bioluminescence became even more pronounced, turning them into a living constellation. Moving through the dark ocean dot, the ship was beautiful and tragic, a crystalline structure partially buried in the seafloor. It's organic. Curves unlike anything human engineering had produced. Karan guided Elena to the stasis chamber, where 7 pods contained beings similar to Karan, but smaller, their scales pale with approaching death. Working together, Elena and Karan began the repair process. Elena's technical knowledge combined with Karan's understanding of the alien systems. One by one, the pods stabilized, and the pale scales of the sleeping Drakmori began to regain their healthy amber glow. When the Coast Guard finally located them 12 hours later, they found Elena sitting peacefully among 8 Drakmori, all of them arranged in a protective circle around the human woman who had risked everything to save them. The image would become iconic the moment when humanity learned that monsters were sometimes just misunderstood friends waiting for someone brave enough to listen. Director Hawthorne was quietly reassigned. Dr. Chun received a commendation for xenological breakthrough. Dr. Mitchell led the team that established the first interspecies communication protocols, but Elena chose a different path. When the Drakmori ship was repaired and ready for departure, Karan extended an invitation that would make her the first human to travel among the stars. Standing at the ocean's edge, she looked back at the world that had tried to cage her friend, then forward to the vast universe waiting to be explored. She stepped aboard without hesitation, knowing that sometimes the greatest adventures begin when we refuse to let fear define what's possible.